computer.
Oh, I have to press continue.
I wanted to start today's show off with a heartfelt thank you to our audience and to those of you who noticed we've missed several shows in the last couple of months. The fact that you care and reached out means a lot to us here at the show. Thank you so much. And welcome back. It's Broker Talk. It's a half-hour show dedicated to the real estate industry and its allied businesses. We are dedicated to bringing you the unvarnished truth about the industry. Each week, we bring you a new guest who has specific skills and knowledge to share, and today's guest is no exception. My friend and colleague, Andy Brilliant, began his career, as I did, as a working commercial professional photographer. In fact, Andy and his wife, Carol, shared a studio building in Boston where we all met back when the earth was cooling. Andy, you were one of the first guests on this show more than 2 years ago. Welcome back. I'm just wondering what you learned in those last 2 years.
Hello.
Hi.
Mention me, please. Just a little mention.
Who are you? No.
Oh, yeah, we forgot. Hey, I've covered up. And of course, Jim Lowenstern, the man who obviously needs an introduction because I thought everybody knew him. Jim is the CEO of Castles Unlimited, and we always must acknowledge him.
Thank you.
You're feeling okay now, Jim?
Yeah, I was wondering why. I was wondering if I should just log off.
yeah, get out of here. Like, both of you can leave. I take over the show. It'll be much more interesting
Right.
than
Fine.
anybody else.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So some of the skills that you need, the show is going to be about talking about the skills you need as a real estate industry. One of them is a thick skin and the ability to roll with the punches. What are some of the others, Andy? What have you learned over the years?
Well, 2 years ago when we were talking, there was nothing on the horizon, or at least that we knew about, of this pandemic we're all in. So, back then, and I, as a freelancer artist before I became a real estate agent, you had to just have faith that what you were doing was you were in the right place no matter what. Maybe the phone wasn't ringing or you weren't getting work or whatever, but you had to have faith that you were there because you wanted to be there and you liked being there. And that hasn't changed in real estate. You do what you have to do because you like doing it, and then you have a little bit of faith that it will work out, and you have to pay attention to where you are and move off if it's not working out for you. So what have I learned? You're here and it'll work out. You just keep doing your work and it'll show up, or it won't show up, but you're not going to worry about it. You have to have a distance a little bit. And now with the pandemic, it was awful those first 6 months for all of us. Nobody knew what was going to happen at all. But in truth, you never really know what's going to happen in life. You have a little faith that your next step will be the right one, and you keep doing it.
Well, let's try and give our audience something they can actually hold on to. You
Right. You can hold my hand. That's my job, is to hold your hand.
There you go. Your ability to negotiate, your ability to hear people, what they're saying, and really understand what they're saying. Negotiation skill. You don't have to be great with numbers, but you have to be very careful with numbers.
Well, you do have to listen. You do have to listen carefully. That's important. If you want to have a skill, it's not something that you practice it. You have to listen to people very carefully. And, if somebody says something really odd to you, instead of sort of, you're not having a fight, I like to just repeat what they said so they can hear themselves. And also it acknowledges, this is a lesson I learned from somebody, that to the other person, that they've heard you, that, you have heard them. People want to be heard. People want to know that you're paying attention. So one good thing is just to repeat it, what they said. Well, you get to take your time.
Yeah. Jim,
you understand what they said, and they hear that they've understood you. Sorry.
Jim, you've been in the industry longer than either of us. And what do you think and you also have owned an agency for years and years. So you've had lots of successful agents go through. What skills do they possess that you think are important?
They're all killers.
Killers? What?
Everyone,
What do you
everyone.
mean?
The
Clo-
top agents, they're like sharks. They just never stop moving. And God help anybody that turns their back.
Well,
They'll
yeah,
get nipped at the very least.
I think that
So
I think that's a little old school, though. I think there's a little bit more. They are killers in the sense that they're closers. They want to get to the end. But you're saying killers
listen,
like they'll steal?
maybe I'm in that rarefied position where I just, after all these years, just know that I can only give them what they want 100% of the time, and that's the only way to make everyone happy. You know, that's what's needed. I don't know if it's it's their narcissism or their drive to be number one or whatever it is, but for those top agents, that's the singular trait that I see. You know,
They have a killer mentality in terms of getting listings sold, getting their buyers under agreement with properties. That's the one thing.
pushing the competition out of the way, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not saying anything, you know, that they would be doing that would be unethical, but they're driven.
Yeah.
Got that drive.
Yeah. I think there is a percentage of agents who are like that. I don't think all top agents are like that. I think they all have consistent habits that make them successful.
So, okay. And we should have him on the show. I had him on my radio show years ago. I think his name is Ben Caballero. Look
Okay.
at his real trend report. I mean, he's like number one every year going back. I don't know.
He's
probably 10
yeah. I actually
over
spoke,
$1 billion in sales.
right. Right. I actually spoke to Ben about coming on the show, and he only does paid visits for
He
it.
was on my
And-
show. Maybe I got a
And
call.
that was
I
back
didn't tell him.
that was back in during the BC era, before we got into, modern time. He doesn't do that anymore.
No.
And he does charge you, and he's actually a whole system. I mean, he's got a whole office. It's not him personally.
Right. He just has everyone doing the work under his name.
Exactly.
Yeah, otherwise it's physically impossible. I mean,
Andy, I think some other skills that are important we had as commercial photographers. I think negotiating value every single day. Let's move on to pricing. What tell me how you price properties, Andy, for your clients.
I deferred to my partner. She really knows how to price people. Well, how do you price properties? You look at the property, you kind of get a sense of where it stands in relation to the other things in the neighborhood. You go online and you check out what's been selling and what's on the market, and you talk to your seller and see what their expectations are. Of course, you want to listen to them. Of course, everybody wants to get the most money, but you do have to kind of be real world about the condition of your property. I always start out when I talk to people, I said, look, everybody thinks their kid is great and smart, but you have to kind of look with the sober eyes of what's going on. And how do I price the property? You just sort of bat it around. I like to tell my clients that we're going to work on this together, and there's some expectations. And if we price it a certain way, we'll do well. If we price it not so well, you might have to decide to lower the price, or you might have to wait.
Andy, Andy, in
Yes.
this market, don't you believe that the lower the price, the higher it'll sell?
Well, yeah, but not
And that's
everybody.
different.
You can show.
Is that period or
show-
but?
No, it's a but you can show people that the seller said, but they may not believe you. I had a property that sold this May for 35% over the list price, and we had 18 offers. My seller was happy with the low offer that we got. I couldn't believe that we got so many people involved
Low price.
in the conversation. It was a low price. He was fine with that. We said, it might go a little higher. We'll see. It was a very desirable property. He did the right thing on it. But, not every client that you talk to, you tell them, well, if we price it here, it should go higher. But you can't guarantee anything in this market. If the house is in good shape and if it's in the right spot, yeah, it should go higher. But I just sold 2 houses in Florida. I didn't sell them. They were part of my family's portfolio, my in-law. And we had to take a lower price. And we priced it well enough to get offers. They did go over a little bit. One's going to be under. I just think it's case by case. In general, if you price the property properly, yeah, it'll go higher. But what is that? How do you define that? You don't know until after, really. I think what's happened lately, just the past couple of months, things aren't selling as quickly. You might have to wait if you're a seller to get your price. And it's not really, you really have to tell people it's not what you want to get, it's what the market will bear. And our job is to get the market there.
What areas have you seen it slowing down? Because my towns, I would say it hasn't slowed down.
Well, we're based in Jamaica Plain. It hasn't really slowed down. I just think, in this last April and May, we had several properties on the market and they got multiple offers. This fall, we had a few others and they didn't get multiple offers. Maybe they got 1 or 2, or, we might have been priced a little bit too high for what we had. And the initial response to people came in and said, yeah, it's too much. These were multifamilies. So the buyers were more savvy investors, so they saw the value. I think
the buyer is always the one who determines the price. The buyer is always the one who determines the price. The seller never determines the price.
And you can't always convince sellers of that, especially if they haven't been selling recently. I had a couple of sellers hadn't bought or sold a house for 35 years. It was very hard to convince them that, we want. Are you okay?
Yeah. Let's take a short break and we'll be right back after this ad. Okay. We're in the ad right at the moment. Hey, Andy, you got to make shorter answers. You can't go on and on and on. Make your point and get off the point.
Yeah, Andy.
Because
okay.
They can't follow.
I'm sorry.
Take over. My partner wants to take over.
No, I don't.
That's the way I am. I mean, I don't think there's easy answers to these questions. I really don't.
I like it when you talk. Don't listen to him. He doesn't know what he's talking about.
3,
I'll make sure to
2, 1.
Like yes, no, maybe.
And we're back. We're just yelling at each other about how we're going here. Pricing. We're back on pricing for the moment, and appraisers have to be able to go into a court of law and defend their price. So people do know the price. Pricing for properties is both an art and a science. The science is look at comparable properties, and comparable properties are properties that are within 10% of size, age, quality, consistency. And not everybody understands all of that. But if you do, good agents can always get within 10% of what the market's going to give. And it does change from week to week because it's a different house. I think. That's the end of my statement.
Okay.
Pricing.
We'll go with that.
Well, the discussion we're having now with sellers, is this a good season to sell? And, there's many sides to that. Spring is always the best. But what do you think?
Well, it's gotten messed up because of COVID
and climate change. And I mean, look at. I mean, okay, so we had snow.
Yeah,
we had a half an inch. It's gone, and I remember years ago we would have a blizzard every Sunday in the winter, and it would wipe out all the open houses weeks after weeks. That has to affect the market.
Yeah.
We have low interest rates. We have warm weather. We have people that need to make life changes because of COVID. It's like a perfect storm and inflation, So people that are concerned that the prices are going to go up higher. I mean, in Newton and Needham, where I am, there's nobody waiting to see how much higher things are going to go, because they just keep going higher. They're jumping in.
I saw in Woburn today, the average price is over 2 million. Average price is
That's a
over
tear
2
down.
million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're practically at that. No, seriously, we're practically at that point now. I mean, I have something. It's just a foundation with a house that's got a stop work order on it. The builder wouldn't take less than 1.8, and that's selling it with the stop. You can't even build on it. It's 1.8.
Wow.
So that just shows you where the market is.
Yeah,
Wow.
we're looking for a single family for somebody in Lexington, and there's really hardly anything on the market.
There's
Yeah.
something I think either between the off ramp and the interstate. It's literally in the cloverleaf.
Right.
That looked like a really good deal. It was like 600,000 for that. It was a very large lot because you got the breakdown lane included.
Just think
Yeah,
of the
probably.
the ease of parking.
All the parking you ever want.
Right,
Yep.
right.
Easy access to the highway.
The
And warm
descrip-
air from the fumes. You don't have to worry about heating your house. You get, all the
Great
extra
great
fumes.
commuter location, as they say.
the description almost writes itself. Well, some of the other things that every agent ultimately understands that they have to know is about buildings. You have inspections, so you're going to understand some plumbing, you're going to understand some electric, you're going to understand about roofs and functional obsolescence, which means you can still use it, but it's probably dead. Zoning is another thing. You buy a property and you want to add on. How can you do that? How much? What will the town allow you to do? Is it an historic district? Is it not? And then all the emotional things that agents deal with, because it's a big ticket item for people. Always considered one of the most expensive things. That's an emotional deal for anybody who's spending that much money. And you as an agent, you're intimate with your buyers and your sellers during that period of time. So you have to be understanding of them and what they're going through. Any comments on any of that?
Especially
Sounds good. I'm trying to keep my answers short. You do have to listen to your clients. If they really want this house, you have to. If somebody goes, I really want this, you have to say, look, this is what you have to do. We'll go all out on it. But if you don't really want it, this is what we're going to do. And you just you have to be able to explain the consequences of of your clients' desires. I mean, there's an emotional component, but sometimes it's not going to happen.
I know that for when I'm working with buyers, I will always ask the listing agent, besides price, what else is important to your seller? Because it's not always price. They may need to stay there for a while. I had one seller who wanted to stay for a month in the house because their children were growing up there, and they wanted to have the second birthday in the house, and they wanted to move the next day. So we allowed that.
I'm doing my broker's. Yeah, I'm doing my broker's study right now, and we were talking about what you can reveal. You can't really say certain things like, oh, they really need to stay, because so you have to be careful what you tell a buyer about
What
your
do you mean?
seller.
You can't tell them what?
Things like, well, she's going through a divorce and she has to be out of the house, stuff like that. Or I would say, they want to be here until the kid's born. I don't think you can really even talk about that. It does sort of give away a position, I think.
You know what?
For your seller.
Generally speaking, you're absolutely right. But in this market, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily talk about, divorces and things like that.
Right.
But for the most part, there's more buyers than there's inventory.
Well,
So it really doesn't
these
matter.
love letters.
Even the worst
you could
brokers can't screw up in this market.
Yeah.
Wow.
The love letter.
What-
Talk about that, Andy, for a moment.
Because I have seen a lot of discouragement about even looking at a love letter now. I mean, when I started 10 years ago, yeah, you did love letters in the competitive market, and that sometimes got you the deal, sometimes it didn't. And on the selling side, you got a good love letter and you take it. The best story is we got a wonderful love letter. There was 15 offers on this house. It was a very well priced house. It wasn't a great house, but desirable, you know. And there were 15 offers on it, and we got several love letters. And the one was so beautiful. The wife was crying. Oh, I really want to sell it to them. You know, and the husband looked at it and said,
And the
well, wait a minute,
price was
they're offering
horrible.
$20,000 less.
Yeah. And they
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
finance.
So, but that, yeah, but you know, these love letters now apparently can leave you open for all kinds of discrimination
Really?
suits. And
How's
oh
so?
yeah, that's what we've been hearing. Example. What's a good example? Well, you know, you take this person because they're a firefighter, you know, or they're a public servant, and you don't take the other
Teacher,
person just because they're a
teachers.
lawyer.
Yeah,
Whatever.
teachers,
Yeah,
you know.
Or gay couple.
or gay, or you know, gender issues. You know, so we're two gay people. We want to live in this neighborhood because it's nice, and we'll really be, you know, that's, you could be discriminating if you do or you don't take them out. And I got this in the class I just took. You know, these love, and we've been hearing it from our management and from other lawyers that the love letters can really leave you open to.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I've actually seen in firm remarks or descriptions, no love letters, please, or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I think it's just coming down. Now you can say, you know, I like the house, you know, I like the way it looks, but I don't think you can talk about in a love letter anymore to say who you are and all that stuff. I mean, I'd like to see a love letter, but I've been told that you really need to be expressing
You have to be
care about-
careful. You have to be
Yeah.
careful, especially with sharing a picture, because it could be discriminatory. You know,
Yes.
you know, the picture
Yeah.
makes a big difference. A white
Even
family
as
to a white family, a
somebody
black
with-
family, you know.
Yeah. Or where they're from.
Yeah.
You know, I'm very curious. That's kind of one of the things I like about this business is I love to hear people's stories. And I
Yeah.
always ask just because I want to know, but you really do have to be careful now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lawsuit. There was a broker that just was making small talk. So where are you from?
Yeah.
Got sued. Cost him $65,000.
Yikes.
She lost
Yikes.
sleep. She you know, she could. It was for a rental that
Yeah.
ultimately she got
Right.
that she didn't take, and sued the guy.
Yeah.
And all it was, you know, listing agent might have been a few minutes late, so he's just making small talk. with
Right.
her.
Well, you got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so where are you from? You know, not like, oh, I detect an accent. You know, well, where did you grow up? Or it was just like, so you know, tell me a little bit about yourself. Got sued,
I mean, yeah. Well,
and
They
that's
were
small
they were
talk.
from New Jersey. We should have known.
No, you know, she wasn't. Wherever she was from, it was Central America or Europe. It really doesn't matter.
Dorchester.
No,
Yeah.
she-
But just that question, just those few words, where are you from, costs a lot of money.
For that poor
25
poor person.
$20,000 a word.
Have you ever had a seller who tells you don't sell it to a developer?
Oh, sure.
I've had that. People
Yeah.
say, "Oh, don't," you know, and I have to
And
tell
I've
people,
had buyers who say, I'm not going to buy a split entry. And half the time they're going to sell to a developer. And 100% of the time they're going to buy a split entry.
right. Well, the split entry is a little bit. It's like saying I don't want to buy a house with a pool. So I think that's different.
Or I don't want to buy a Victorian. You know, they're
Yeah.
already cutting out chunks of the market. You know.
Right. Well, that's yeah, that's a little bit different. I mean, materially, yeah, you could do certain things, but you can't tell a seller who they should sell to. You might say, I guess you could say, well, this is your market for this house.
What the seller
might be able to say
and you have to
that.
be careful what your description is. You can't say this is great for a starting family, because you're
Right.
you know, it could be for somebody who's moving down in size, you know, a downsizer, and you just have to be careful with all of this. But most of the time you don't get sued. Most of the time.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Have you ever been personally sued, Jim, for real
Of
estate?
course.
I have only once. I won.
You're
and I
nobody if you
lost.
haven't been sued.
Yeah, I've won and I lost. I won because I had all my correct paperwork. I
I've
lost
had
because I
some,
had to pay the lawyer,
all
you
my
know?
lawsuits are awesome. They're all, we could do a whole show on Jim's lawsuits.
Uh,
It's a whole book in itself. Learning experiences. I
Well,
never go anywhere near an attorney or a court now, no matter what, on one side of things. But there's very litigious people out there that you look at them the wrong way, like that guy I just mentioned.
yeah,
He
I
did
always,
nothing wrong,
right.
but he lost the case.
Yeah. I always think a day without a lawyer is usually a pretty good day, but I like the real estate attorneys.
Do we have
I
another ad to run?
um yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. And we're out. For some reason, it's not running there.
you know, when we've been traveling a bit this season. Florida for Carol's family and California for our daughter. And in those places in real estate, lawyers are not involved initially. They're not a vector
Well,
like they are here with us.
Florida's title companies. That's
Yeah.
why I started in real
That's right.
estate.
Yeah.
California also uses title companies, but it's unique here that we have attorneys.
Three,
I actually like.
we're coming back. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, folks. We're here with Andy Brilliant, who is a real estate agent in Jamaica Plain. Andy, share with us, you work with Carol Palmer, your wife. How is that?
Carol Palmer, brilliant. Finally, after years, she. What?
She's
Sorry?
Now you have to move to Cambridge because you're a hyphenated name.
I'm not hyphenated. She's hyphenated.
That's even more confusing. Thank God your daughter's out of the house with her own family.
We both trans also. No, that's a joke. Sorry, that was a bad joke.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, well, that's. But how is it working with your life partner? I know there's all kinds of stories. I know she's also sitting right there. She's close enough to
Right.
hit you.
Well, our daughter is an adult, so we've been together for a long time. And when we were photographers, we were also in business together. We met in the photography business, so we're used to. We worked through that. I think we both recognize each other's skills and desires, what we want to do in this part of the business. So that seems to work. It is convenient to be able. It's convenient, and it's a downside to be able to discuss our business at 3 a.m, in a warm place. And the hard part sometimes is having some boundaries as to business and personal life. But as artists, we didn't really have that. So yeah, it's a good question.
We each balance.
We balance each other, and
Yeah.
and we can have fights.
No, I think we help each other.
The joke in our business is that I'm the negotiator, and Carol has no idea how many zeros are in front of anything. So,
Well, it's
But-
not the zeros in front; it's the zeros behind.
and
Carol's
that-
smart
well,
enough
see,
there.
that's right.
How about a couple of last thoughts about what makes a good agent? I think consistency is important. I think listening is important. I think the ability to understand what people are really saying to you, not be reactive to mean people, because there's lots of mean people that say
Mhm,
mean stuff to you.
mhm.
Well, I think, yeah, there's scripts now that people you talk to people and they're unloading on you,
Yeah.
and the more you do this, the longer the more you see what's happening, and you kind of have to learn not to engage over petty stuff. People want to get there. You just, I had it. Now it escaped what I was going to say. Oh, you have to remember that you are serving your client, and you have to understand what they want and have their goals in your mind. You're not, as much as you want to be, a mover and shaker and a shark and get at the deal, it's really about serving your client. That's the most important thing, and you have to remember that. That's the way I work. And sometimes people will tell me they have an unreal expectation about whatever, and I try to tell them that, but I still will try to go after that. for
Right.
them, if that's what they
Right.
want.
Right.
That's it. That's the most important thing, is you have to remember, it's not about you. You're working for the client.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I often say, do you want to be right or do you want to make a deal? Because somebody will say, well, you can't do it that way. And you could do a lot of this stuff a lot of different ways.
Well, it's kind of like, do you want to sell it or do you want to get a high price? Which, do you want to get your price or do you want to sell it? And then there's a big difference to that. You have to explain that.
Yeah.
You have to explain that, how that goes, because it doesn't sound good to the client.
Right. Right. So I first want to thank Jim Lowenstern for being here, a man who must be mentioned. And of course, my good friend, Annie Brilliant. And I don't think I mentioned my name at the beginning. I'm Larry Lawfer.
I forgot everything this time, Larry.
I did, because
I had to point it out.
Because, hey, we haven't done it for a little bit, but we'll be back
I'm here
next
to
week.
help.
Jim, nice to meet you.
We've
Great
been
to
on
have
the
you.
show together, Andrew. I remember you.
You do? Where? What was it?
What do we have, an audience?
No,
Background music? What's all that background stuff?
We're going out. We're going out.
Yeah. So